Hi, I'm Macy.
And I'm Missy.
We're best friends
and business partners. And each week, we're going to bring you a quote that inspires us, and we're going to talk about it.
Join us as we break down our favorite impactful messages for leadership and share how you can apply them to lead with confidence and purpose.
Get ready for a fun and authentic journey into leadership, life, and everything in between. Well, hey, bestie.
Hey, bestie. Good to see you today.
It's always good to be with you. Glad to be here today. And today we are going to talk with someone who is an expert in his field, who has a ton of experience with sales, and he's really just an overall great person.
Yeah, I'm really excited that he said yes to this. So before we share today's quote, let's welcome to the show, Ray Higdon. Welcome.
Welcome, Ray.
What's
we
happening?
are so glad you are here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. As we get started today, Ray, do you want to go ahead and share with our listeners a little more about who you are, what you do, that kind of thing? Just a little bit about you.
Yeah. So I help sales leaders build performing teams that don't drain them. That's what I do. And so I come in and help the sales leader who is often the everything to the team, and they're exhausted and they're burnt out and they can't even dream of scaling. I've seen so many leaders that end up leaving the sales, team space because they just can't imagine bringing on more people because it's just going to drive them crazy. And so I help them with systems, culture, boundaries, help them with processes, and it's a lot of fun. And then I also help equip their team to perform at a higher level.
And, so do you do that? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. One-on-one space, or are you in a group space, or both?
So the most common thing is I often work with the leader first.
Okay.
And then they bring me into the team after I've helped the leader set up some things, some systems and processes. That's kind of the most common. But I've been doing this to one degree or another for the last really 20 years between real estate, insurance, direct sales, and I just love it. I have a blast training the team. I have a blast working with the leader and watching them, make a lot more money and be a lot more free. And so that's what I love to do.
Yes. So good. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And Missy, why don't you go ahead and share the quote that we're going to talk about today?
I would love to. Okay, so the quote for the week is this: every problem has in it the seeds of its own solution. That's Norman Vincent Peale. And if that name sounds familiar at all to you, it's because he wrote the book, The Power of Positive Thinking. So with that, Ray and Macy, let's talk about it. Ray, when you hear the quote, every problem has in it the seeds of its own solution, how does that land for you in the context of sales?
In the context of sales. So I mean, you guys, I think know this, but I am faith-based. And so, James 1:17, John 3:27 talks about how we can't get a result unless it's from our Heavenly Father. And so I have noticed over and over and over and over and over that on my worst days, that's when I had my biggest learning. And so I've kind of conditioned myself now of when something goes wrong, I'm not like, I used to just stare at the problem. Like, why is this happening? What, and so I see the problem happening and I'm like, okay, all right, let me get into prayer. Lord, what are we doing about this? What am I to learn from this?
Yeah.
And I had something very, very, very recent happen, but not that long ago, Christmas. This doesn't have to do with sales, but I think it applies to this.
Share anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, share.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Christmas Day, and I have, we got our two little ones here, 6-year-old son and 10-year-old daughter. And our 10-year-old daughter is, she's a firecracker, man. She's a firecracker. I'll tell you her personality in 2 quick stories. So when she was 4 years old, she was drawing with her mom, and her mom drew something, an elephant or something. And she goes, "That's not very good." And her mom says, "Well, that's not very nice." And she goes, "Be better then." At 4. Okay.
Oh, I have
And
one of those. I had
yeah,
one of those as well.
yeah. And then we helped her when she was 4 run her first lemonade stand. And one of our friends pulled up in a Bentley and, rolled the window down. "How much for lemonade?" She's 4. She goes, $20. And he's like, $20. And she says, "You can afford it." At 4. So she's a firecracker. And
Yeah.
so one thing that both my wife and I, we're from the Midwest, we're aware that there have been times in the past where someone gave her a gift she didn't like, and she let them know. And we just cringe. We hate it. It's just like we're always like, okay, you're going to appreciate every gift you get, And so she's going through the process, opening all her gifts. And so she's opening up the gift. She opens 52 different gifts, right?
Right, of course.
And I get that she's not happy. Okay. Now I'm like, what is going on? Like I'm about to blow my top, right? And so she won't look at me. I look at her mom, and her, mom is upset. I'm looking back. So Sabrina goes upstairs to her room, closes the door. And I'm like, what is going on? And my wife says, my wife starts crying. So now I just want to go bananas. And so I'm like, what's going on? She goes, "Well, one of the things on our list I wasn't able to get." And I'm like, okay. So what was my first thought? My first thought was, where's the trash bags? I'm going to gather all this stuff
Right.
up. I'm going to
Yes.
burn it.
Yes.
You're not going
throw
to
it away.
appreciate what I've done for
Not
you.
gonna-
We're
Exactly.
taking this to kids who will appreciate it.
That's right.
Pack it up, sister.
Exactly. And so that's my first thought. And I want to go up there. I'm going to take the door off the hinges. I'm going to take the bed out. Like, oh, she's sleeping on the floor, but I've learned that reactionary mode of me is never the right answer. And so instead I go into my bedroom and I pray. And I'm like, okay, God, what am I doing with this? And this is what I do anytime I'm triggered, anytime I see a problem, I pray. And so I go into my bedroom. I'm like, okay, Lord, what am I to do with this? And you know what I got? She's just like you. And I had so many memories flood my brain of how many times he has blessed me in so many different ways, yet I focus on the one thing he didn't do.
Oh, wow. That brings
Bless me.
tears to my eyes. Yeah.
Right. And so now I'm like, okay, got it. Thanks, God. Thanks for that. And,
I hear ya.
Yeah. And so I go upstairs, and it's very different than I had planned. And I just said, "Sabrina, you're just like me." And she's like, "What? What do you mean?" And I explained it to her. And, and I told her, "But the reality is your mom's very upset. You need to go talk to her." So she came down, apologized. And so there's really 2 takeaways, that I got from that story. One, thank God God isn't like me. What if he took everything away when we weren't appreciative of
Oh, my
given
gosh.
us,
Wow.
right?
Yeah, that's a good.
Oh, wow.
Right?
That's a mic
Like
drop.
I wanted to go scorched
Yeah, it
earth.
is.
Right.
And then number 2 is, I think some people may hear this story and be like, "Yeah, you need to teach that girl some gratitude." Well, it's like, okay, is there any area in our life where maybe we're not recognizing the blessing? And so, I look at that. Even when you have a bad sales rep, or you have a bad interaction with your sales team, that is to be learned from. Okay, how do I change the structure? How do I change the dynamics, the culture, the systems, the processes? What am I doing that can be improved to take this problem and actually turn it into something great?
Yeah.
And I think that takes reflection, right? You have to pause enough to not react, right? In the past, it sounds like you would have gone straight to her room and say, like Missy just said, "Pack it up, sister, we're done. This is going to the children that are going to appreciate it." And I can appreciate that too. I recently had an incident with my son, and the old me would have handled it much differently. Like over the phone, I said, "You will be grounded over this." But I didn't tell him what the punishment was. I sat with it for a few days because I didn't want to be reactionary, right?
That's
So
good.
I was mindful and said, okay, let's be realistic, because the old me would have said, "Pack it up, brother. We're done. We're done."
Yeah.
With sales in mind, what do you think is a big mindset trap that you see in sales teams that really keeps them from finding seeds of solutions?
A lot of times, especially with the leader is a great performer. And it's kind of like the Peter principle, right? So someone is elevated to a position that they're not really prepared for. And so a lot of times the best salesperson in the team gets elevated to management. That's and right. There's absolutely no correlation, right? And so what can happen is that super performer will look at someone who's not as good of a performer and just be like, all right, I'll help you close the deal. Let me do it. Versus a scaling and systems kind of mindset. Like I was a better closer than most of the people on my team. And, years ago, I was the number one income earner for a direct sales company. And so, I worked with a lot of different personalities. I was a better closer than a lot of them, but I wanted them to be independent because I just believed, 1% of a whole bunch of other people's efforts is better than 100% of mine. And I had zero trepidation or sabotage around scaling. If we added 1,000, sales reps, the next week, it would not have been a big deal because my systems would have picked that up. My system would have handled that. And so I think the tendency of the super performer is, well, let me just do it, or let me get out of my way. Let me do it. And
and we see that
all the time.
Right. We work primarily with blue collar leaders, right? And it's the same thing. It's not a sales thing, but it's like, I can do it quicker. I can do it better. It's just, they just want to handle all of it.
Until they're completely burnt out and stressed out, and the meaningful things in their life are taking the back burner. And so we don't want that. And so I think this is going to be a good kind of follow-up question for that, because as you were talking about being in direct sales and a lot of the other things you've done, you've worked across many formats, from cold calling to the big stage to network marketing. Now you're coaching, training. What is that internal mindset that has helped you stay effective regardless the environment you're in? Like, what is that mindset that you continually focus on to be effective no matter where?
That's a good question. If you asked me that question 3 years ago, it was, I would say, just like sheer drive, like just this obsession with being better. I'm obsessed with progress. And I realized something. I realized that so most things I've ever tried, I have not been good at, right? So I sucked at sales. I sucked at public speaking. I sucked at video. I remember the first video I made. I make this video, and it took me 4 hours. And I'm in a suit and tie, and I'm like, and I'm talking about online lead generation. And I send it to my mentor who was helping me at the time. And I said, hey, what'd you think about? And just to preface it, I had come up with a script and I had taped it to the back of my laptop. So, the camera's here, and I'm like, hi, I'm Ray Higdon. You struggle with leads online. And so I send it to him and I said, hey man, what do you think? I spent 4 hours on this thing. And he responds back, LOL, you should totally post that.
He thinks you're joking.
And I'm like, that's interesting. Like, I don't know what he means. And so I call him and I'm like, hey, you got the video, huh? And he goes, dude, I didn't know you were going to start out with skits. And I'm like, yeah, skits. It was so bad. He couldn't fathom that was I never told him, by the way. He couldn't fathom that was a serious attempt. So I have sucked at almost everything I've ever tried. But I realized maybe a year or so ago that God gave me one thing, and that is I delight in discipline. I delight in consistency. So like I spend, I every morning I got a certain routine, and then I have a night routine. And so what I'm thinking in my mind is between this routine and that routine, I'm thinking of the next routine.
Those systems.
Like, I can't wait. I can't wait. And so it's strange. And so it's an obsession with progress. now, a little bit over 3 years ago, I found God and I accepted Christ. And since then, I still have that. I still absolutely love that. And I all about progress. But I also have just learned that in any kind of obstacle, I just turn to prayer and I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? And so it's very rare for me to just, react and go off. I'm not saying I won't get upset, but I'll get upset and be like, okay, all right, I need to go pray.
Yeah.
Let me get out of here.
Excuse me for a moment while
Yes.
I go seek my greatest counselor.
That's right.
As we refer to sales teams, what's a common issue that you see? Like, what's the biggest challenge or the biggest problem that you see with the sales teams that you work with?
So a lot of times the leader is naturally good at sales. And that can actually be a curse because if someone is naturally good at something, they're usually not good at teaching it because they don't know what it's like to learn it. And so I remember,
that's a good point.
It is a great point.
I was at a conference and this very good speaker, I actually love him as a speaker. I'm not going to name him, but I love him as a speaker. He's a great speaker. He got up there and he was training some people in direct sales and network marketing. And he said, I signed the first 60 people I talked to, and this is what I said. And so the whole audience is, they're looking for the, fast track, right? They're looking for the magic button, right? The easy button. And so they're like, ooh, right? They think it's in the script. It's not in the script.
Right.
He had credibility with those 60 people. The script wasn't that impressive. It was, but he didn't understand that. And so when you have someone who has royally sucked at something and learned to become world class, that's going to be a good teacher because they understand who they're teaching. And so a lot of times the sales leader is just naturally, they've never studied tonality, but they know when to go up, down. They know how to use their tone to close sales. They just don't know how to teach it because it was natural to them. And so most sales teams, they're under the leadership of a very naturally talented sales leader, but they don't know what the hell to say. They don't know how to overcome objections. They don't know, they don't understand that their tone actually matters or the speed of which they use their voice matters. And so it's digging in there and not assuming, it's like, Vince Lombardi was a coach for the Packers, and he never assumed anything. He would start every football year with, all right, gentlemen, this is a football. And like, I think they know that, but he did not assume you knew how to run. He didn't assume you knew how to tackle. He didn't assume you knew anything. He taught from the ground up every single year, the basics. And so when your team can master the basics, you're going to be free. You're going to be free as a bird. And so we just help the leader with understanding they have some knowledge that their team doesn't have, and let's help them get there.
Love it.
Really
okay.
Good.
So I'm coming from the position of a listener right now.
Okay.
Stay with me, Macy. I know. You're like, what are you doing, Missy? Are you open to sharing what your morning routine looks like? Because if I was listening to this podcast right now, I would be, and I am. I'm like, what do you do in your morning routine? Because I have a very specific morning routine. I read Miracle Morning years ago, and it changed my life. Any tips for just the listener on what they might do every morning in a system or every night in a system to up-level living well?
Yeah. So, I mean, my mornings have always been sacred. And I just love what I do. So, I wake up and I get up pretty early, right? And I don't set an alarm clock, but I'm today I was up at 3:30 or something like that. So I'm up somewhere between 3:35 pretty much every day.
Yeah.
And so
am I, but it's not to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Well, I am. I was up at 4:30 this morning, so I'm there with you.
And so the first thing that I do, I mean, just to give you all the details. So first I brush my teeth right away. and because I've learned that there was a large gap between when I would wake up and when I would actually take a shower. So I'm like, that's too long of a gap for me not to have brushed my. So I brush my teeth right away, and then I go into prayer, and so I pray. And there's some things that it's mainly gratitude, just thanking. But there is one question that I ask in prayer, and that is, Lord, what are you praying for me today?
Oh, I love that.
So, and I'll get a different answer every now and then pray about that and contemplate on that. I have a fairly small set of faith-based affirmations, I guess you would say, that I say after that, and then I usually am going to the gym. So I go to the gym. I do not spend all day in there. I spend about 30 minutes. I usually do 200 ab kind of things, and then whatever body part. Come home. I do 3 minutes on the rebounder. I do a face plunge. I used to do cold plunge, but there's a lot of studies out there that say that long term, they debate if it's actually good for you long term. But face plunge, it activates the vagus nerve, and so it's a lot simpler too. And so I face plunge for 20 seconds, and then I plan out my content and my day. So I plan out. I create my drafts for Instagram for the day. I look at my schedule, see what needs to be set.
Sure. Planning ahead.
Then I go and I read the Bible while grounding. So I go outside, put my bare feet to the ground while I read the Bible. I read a proverb every day, and I read wherever I am in the Bible at that time. And I do a video for my membership group, and then from there, just depends on the day.
You follow your schedule that you planned. Love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then at night, I've grown into this. It's fairly intense, but I do a boxing routine. And so I use these 3-pound hand weights, okay, pretty heavy. And so I started with 1 minute rounds, doing 5 minutes or 5 rounds, right? 5 rounds of 1 minute rounds.
Yep.
I now every night do 12 rounds of 3 minute rounds with just punching for that long.
Shadow boxing.
And that's really cool. And then I'm usually in bed by 10:30 usually.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
You're welcome, listeners.
Yeah. I know you don't know this about my family, Ray, but we're a boxing family. So my husband runs a police athletic league.
Oh, cool.
And boxing is a core program. My one son coaches there and has been in the ring a few times. But he's retired.
Now, as a mom, 18. Did that make you nervous?
Oh, Ray, I literally peed my pants at his first one. When I say literally, I mean literally. It was it was horrible. I only went to one, and then I couldn't go anymore.
Yeah.
All right. So back to our questions about sales and teams. In high-performing teams, what would you say separates the good from the great? Because there are good
that's a good question, Macy.
But then you have those standouts. So what do you think is that gap between the good and the great?
So the great, they understand, and it depends. It depends on, the scenario, right? Sure. So for example, because there's very different scenarios in, say, direct sales versus an insurance floor,
Right.
So an insurance floor, you only got so many phones, right? They need to produce, right? So you can't just lollygag and be like, hey, whatever you want to do. But I would say, culture, right? And I learned this from Jack Welch. I read one of his books a million years ago, and it says 4 types of employees and what to do, right? If it's an employee situation, like a sales employee situation. He said, there will be people that embody your company culture and hit the numbers easy, right? Hug them, squeeze them, take care of them, right? There will be people that do not carry the culture and do not hit the numbers. They got to go.
Right.
There will be people that don't hit the numbers but carry the culture. You mentor them. And then the hardest category, There will be people that hit the numbers but don't carry the culture, and you got to let them go.
Oh,
that's the toughest, because people will have a producer on their team that is so toxic.
Yes.
We're a producer. We want to make the money, right? So they will allow this terrible behavior from this producer, which is stifling 3 or 4 or 5 or 100 other producers, because they see that you tolerate this nonsense, and it means, oh, they're just all about the money. They don't care if they railroad
us or
if
me,
that producer railroads us and treats us like crap. They just care about the money, right? That's what it says. And so the hardest, and I had that one time. I had a COO that highly producing, but not necessarily in sales, but highly producing of what he was doing, but he's running over everybody. I'm dealing with everyone upset literally every week, and I'm just like, okay, we gotta let you go. And so that's the tough decision. That really is a marker of, are you a great leader or not? And so if you are putting up with terrible behavior because they produce, not the right choice.
We preach this in our trainings. Like, we don't just teach it, we preach it. Okay, so what's one daily habit that you believe every leader should adopt for consistent performance?
Study. I mean, I every day you should be studying something. You should be trying to progress. You should be trying to grow. And whether, for some people that may be podcasts, for some people, that's YouTube videos, hiring a mentor, whatever. I mean, I just really believe every single day you should be trying to grow, and grow not just for you, but grow for who you're called to help. And we have to be as brave as the people who need us. And there are people out there that need us to get better, and they also need to hear our story. And so that takes courage. We got to go out there and do it.
Good. All right. I have one more kind of fun question for you. If you could only teach one lesson about sales for the rest of your life, what would you teach on?
Oh, I love it. Here we go.
I mean, I think the one that this isn't usually the sales leader has this, but as far as mass impact, and as far as, anyone in sales, whether they're, leading a team or not, posture. So posture is the management of the energy of the conversation. And so natural closers, they got it. They may not even know it, but so many people lack posture. They're asking for the sale in a kind of timid way versus leading them into making the decision, right? And so the management of the energy of the conversation, when someone doesn't have posture, and it's best, let me give you an example. Okay, so I remember, so when I was building a direct sales business, this is the example that came up for some reason. So I had in my team, I had an HBO executive out in LA, and she was, building the business, and she gets me on a 3-way call, a sales call, and she broke the rules. Okay, she edified the prospect, not me. She's supposed to edify me, right? And so she gets on and she goes, "Hey Ray, this is Barbara, and Barbara runs a successful talent agency in Beverly Hills. Everyone in town knows her. She's been doing this business for 20 years. She's a big name in the industry. And Barbara, here's Ray." And so I know what's going to happen. I know. Big Barbara going to come in and push me around. And so sure enough, and this is how she talks. She goes, "Hello, Ray. How are you today? I told Amy I would look at her little home business. How goes it?" That's what she said. Her little home business.
Oh, God.
She was talking to the wrong person, Mayce.
And so, I'm the little guy with little hands. "Oh, thank you, Barbara." Right. So someone without posture would be like, "Oh, thank you, Barbara, for being
right.
Oh, I'm so gracious for your time, and I'll only take a couple minutes," right? They would be apologizing.
Sure.
No, we got to correct this. And so after that big introduction, I said, "Well, I guess I'm a little confused." And she goes, "Oh, over what?" And I said, "Well, if you're doing so well, why are we on this call?" And and usually when people encounter posture, they're not used to it.
Right. Sure.
So usually a sigh. Now, if I hear a sigh, you're in. I mean, you're sold. I got you, right? Like, welcome to the team, right? Congrats. And so she was like, well, the industry's changed, and, I've lost a few clients, and, times are a little different than they used to be. And you could just feel the posture shift. Now, I'm not looking to dominate. I don't need to dominate.
Right, yeah.
But I need to be eye to eye.
At least equal.
You can't have the high ground and me try to close you. Like that doesn't work. And so, we were able to be honest with each other and deflate that thing. And so, posture, just the ability to manage the energy of the conversation. I think that's the number one difference between someone who closes a lot of sales and someone who doesn't.
So good. So good. And I think it really is like a great segue into our like big takeaway for the week. And so listeners, if you have only one takeaway, one thing from this episode, let it be this: problems aren't roadblocks. They're roadmaps. Mm-hmm. Within every challenge, there's insight pointing to the solution. And that story Ray just told, it was posture, right? The key is learning how to see the problem differently.
Right. It's the ability to reframe the challenge, right? It's a practical skill that leaders can develop to unlock higher profits or stronger teams, long-term growth, productivity, all of those things.
Yeah, I love that, Mayce. And Ray, thank you so much for being with us today and adding so much value to our listeners. We really appreciate that. If our listeners want to stay connected with you, what's the best way?
I mean, I post a lot of content online to help sales leaders. Instagram at Ray Higdon, probably the easiest. And if you follow me on Instagram, you actually automatically get sent a link to one of my more popular mindset, videos if you want to check that out.
Great. Super.
I'll be checking it. I'll be following today if I don't know already follow, or unfollow and follow again so we can get that training. Now, Ray, as we wrap up the episode, we ask all of our guests this. What is your favorite leadership quote?
I actually, I didn't like this the first time I heard it, but it's from Vern Harnish. And Vern Harnish wrote a book called Scaling Up, which is, kind of a big, dry book. Sorry, Vern. But in that, he said his definition for leadership is leaders make it easy. And you want to say, leaders set the model, right? Leaders set the example. There's a lot of other things you could say, but he said leaders make it easy. And I thought about that. I'm like, if I make it easier for the people that follow me, that's good leadership. How can I make it easy for those who follow me, for my tribe and the people I'm called to serve? If I can make it easy for them, that's good leadership. And so I like that it's kind of different. And so I'll go with that one.
Very good. I love it. And listeners, do you have a favorite leadership quote? Send it our way and we may spotlight it on a future episode.
And we'll be back next week with another quote and more leadership insights. And you know what we're going to do?
I do, bestie. We're going to talk about it. Bye, bestie. Bye, Ray. Thank you so much.
Bye, Ray. Thank you. Thank you.
See you.
We want to thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, please show us some love by clicking the 3 dots to download the podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating on your podcast app and talk about it with other leaders to help them find the show from any of the major podcast apps. We'd love for you to follow us on social media too. Mpactful with an M _messages on Instagram and Mpactful Messages on LinkedIn.